All right, good morning, everybody. Hope you're all having a fantastic start to the AM here. And yeah, welcome to DTR Monday. You're a guest. Please say hello, introduce yourself, subscribe to the YouTube channel. That'll give you access to the chat so you can kind of ask questions and do all that kind of stuff. Have that restriction in place just to kind of avoid all the bots that can sometimes interrupt these live streams. So would appreciate if you guys did. Otherwise, right, let's kind of start mapping things out here a little bit and kind of figure out what we want to do here today. Good morning, Fernando. We have a lot of Fed speak here today, right? Bullard's been speaking since 8:30. We got Mary Daly speaking at 11, and then Bostic and Barkin speaking here at 11. I've seen a few comments from Bullard here so far this AM, where it's been kind of just like based around, he still sees like 2 further hikes this year. So we'll see how much that actually impacts the markets this morning. We're basically hanging out in the middle of previous days' ranges, almost across the board. There's a few exceptions here, and we'll kind of map those out. But we'll start things off with the SPY and then kind of go from there. Last little bit, right? Mondays have not necessarily been the most tradable of sessions. They've ended up being maybe a little bit choppy, right? A little bit indecisive, right? Inside bar last Monday. Prior Monday, right, inside bar, right, prior Monday to that, like kind of a nasty rejection. So not a huge expectation that today's necessarily going to be the busiest of sessions. Good morning, Jesus. Good morning, David. And so I'm going to want to make sure that if I am taking a shot at anything here, I actually have that confirmation of strength. We've also talked about this a little bit, I guess, with DTR members. But when we tend to open up in the middle of the previous day's range, my base assumption is consolidation until proven otherwise, right? So we kind of have a weak looking candle, strong volume profile, and then we're opening up in the middle of that range, being told kind of an indecisive narrative, right? Strong volume, but weak candle, and then opening up in the middle, not being told the super strong story here. So that just, again, right, maybe is a clue of, hey, today's going to be a day of consolidation, right? We have those debt ceiling kind of narratives, right? We've got a few little stories that are kind of fighting for control here, or narrative control. Excuse me. And you know, maybe a few of our leading names, right? They've got earnings this week, like Nvidia's got earnings on Wednesday. So maybe that slows us down here just a little bit, right? Generally, those days where we get a lot of Fed speak, those aren't the busiest of sessions for me. And Mondays here, last little bit, have not been the busiest days. So I just want to have those expectations, right? That just because it's a Monday, just because the market's back open here today, doesn't mean I need to force a decision, right? It means I need to be waiting for all my A+ kind of criteria to sync up. And then when that criteria does, or when it kind of comes together, when I actually start to get a little bit of that conviction, then okay, right? We can take advantage of that price action. But I don't want to be rushing myself into a trade or rushing myself into a decision just because markets are back open here today, right? I need to rely on facts, not feelings, and just not put myself in situations where it's easy to overtrade or easy to rush a decision or easy to force myself into doing something stupid. I'd rather just control the variables I can't control and then hope that everything else kind of falls into place. So yeah, with that being said, right, let's start mapping things out here a little bit and figure out what we want to do. SPY, right, we've got a least bearish candle plus increasing outlier vol plus gap up, right? So we'll call this a weak 2 out of 3 here to the downside, right? We have a red candle, red volume, but the candle and the volume aren't particularly telling me that same narrative here this morning, right? If we're going to look at the candlestick cheat sheet, right, it kind of looks like this, you know, arrow pointing up versus sort of that most bearish or second most bearish. So we know a lot of this volume is actually dip buyers supporting this move, but it's not exactly strong dip buyers because the candle still finished red, right? And the body of the candle is probably about the same size as that bottom wick, give or take. So not exactly a huge indication of relative strength from bulls or a huge indication of relative strength from bears. So inconsistent narrative, right? Strong volume profile, high volume indecision tends to be the worst decision. And then we're opening up in the middle of that range. So I have a pretty decent expectation that today is going to be, at least on the index level, a relatively choppy session. Probably not the name that I want to focus on here this morning, right? Probably more of a opportunity where I'm looking for my leading names to kind of give me that continuation. If I'm going to be bullish, right, I need to see a breakout above sort of those Friday highs. Now we're going to round that up, right? That's still that 421 level, not too much is actually going to change there, and we're hanging out at 418.90 pre-market. So we got like $2 to go before that's particularly interesting. And then not really too much is changing, right, based on those sort of levels that we mapped out there on Friday. We have that space towards 425, and then we have that next point of contact there, right, like that 431, 432 area. And then that's certainly where I'm maybe most interested in a breakout. But my base assumption here today is like choppy until proven otherwise, right? So if I can get a bigger vol breakout than what I got on Friday, okay, interesting. But I don't expect that to happen here today. And middle of the range, right? Not really expecting that to be particularly interesting. And then to the downside, right? VIX is still well under 20, so I don't particularly have a bearish bias. So I'm not really interested in mapping anything out there. More looking for that sort of bullish continuation if I can get that story to sync up. Okay, QQQ. A little bit of a weaker volume profile, but still relatively strong, right? We've got that rising wedge pattern, higher high, higher low, least bearish candle, decreasing volume, gap down. So again, right, we are getting a 2 out of 3 here, but not exactly a high conviction look on the indexes, right? Again, seems like the last little bit we've been relying on leading names to kind of give us those tradable opportunities, and I don't see anything changing here. So we're going to call that, right, at least bearish. Oh, I can't spell. Plus decreasing outlier vol, right? And then gap down. So 2 out of 3 here, right? Weak 2 out of 3 here to the downside. The missing narrative, right, is that volume and price action is not telling me that same story. So I need to wait for things to sync up before I'm willing to be hyper aggressive here. Hey, good morning, Jay. If I can get a breakout now through 339, right? Okay, that maybe starts to get a little bit more interesting. But again, right, we're kind of in the middle of that range, right? Where we're okay, $2.40 from the highs. Okay, dollar from the lows. I don't really have a bearish narrative here, so it's got a little bit of work to do before it's willing to break out. The realistic expectation, right, when we're 1% away from a breakout, okay, that can technically happen, but it's going to be a little bit more challenging, right, for me to want to be aggressive if it's got a lot of work to do before it hits that breakout target. Maybe the easiest setup here is to basically find support inside this range, right? Where we get a pullback on the index, like a BB reversal, something along those lines, where we find kind of a consolidation inside that high volume support. And then we kind of, basically become fake out proof towards that 339. That would be probably my primary thesis here. And I'm not sure if I'm going to want to be chasing a breakout very aggressively on this on this QQQ until proven otherwise. So breakout continuation if the volume is ridiculous, right? Or high vol, or find support, right? And the thesis here is we've seen really strong bulls step in and defend before, and we haven't invalidated those bulls. Now it's a pretty big range here, right? From say that like 335 towards sort of that 331. But if I can get that momentum, if I can find a reversal candle, a bigger volume profile than expected, maybe a volume divergence reversal, BB reversal, MA cross reversal, gives me a lot of more like narratives that I can kind of chase after, especially, like after a pattern breakout, right? It's okay to see consolidation. It's okay to basically see price action want to now find support. It doesn't have to move in a straight line all the time. So can I basically see it find support here, maybe off of VWAP, off of the MAs, off of the bottom Bollinger Band, and then go? That would maybe be the best risk reward setup here instead of wanting to chase this breakout higher, right? So that would be more my bias here. If I can get that pullback, weak pullback and go, that'll be more the narrative I'm looking at. And then we said that 339. So let's just sanity check this. We've got mapped out towards sort of 349, 350. That's sort of that next shelf here, right? Where we're going back towards sort of April 2022. And I think that's going to be realistically where I'm going to be capping this at today. No need to be very aggressive here in the short term. So if I can get a nice move, awesome. If not, okay, I'm not going to force anything. I'm certainly not going to overtrade. And I'm just not going to put myself in a situation where it's easy to be unsuccessful, right? Again, I still think today is going to be more of a name to focus on the leading names. Although there's going to be maybe less of those to follow or focus on than maybe we're used to. But again, right, a lot of Fed speak, a lot of inconsistent narratives here today. So I don't want to be talking myself into a trade until it's absolutely perfect. And my base assumption here this morning, right, is choppy until proven otherwise. Okay, Apple, right? This actually is probably going to be my favorite setup here this morning. We have a little bit of a breakout there, higher high, higher low, decreasing volumes. We kind of have weak bears there, right? But a pretty decent gap down. Now, what we've seen recently, right, is big gap downs tend to not sustain. So it's hard for me to think that we're actually going to get downside follow through here, you know, through that 170 or back down towards that 170. I think the easiest narrative is, okay, we kind of bounce off of this bull flag high, right? We see previous resistance turn into support, and then maybe we can look for sort of like a gap fill setup. So this is a great opportunity for like a BB reversal, MA cross higher, right? Something along those lines instead of chasing a breakout. So we can kind of reverse back towards the mean, you know, not get kind of stuck on this overreaction flush. And then once those narratives sync up, right, okay, then we can kind of have a little bit of joy here this morning and take advantage of that price action. So we're going to call this week 2 out of 3 here to the downside, right? And it's weak because the volume's not particularly strong. Oh gosh. Right, and it's gapping down on basically an downgrade, right? So is that really enough for it to sustain that move? I don't think so, right? 2% gap down on Apple's pretty rare. So I'm not going to be hyper aggressive here trying to force a decision. I think the best setup here this morning, right, is going to be a BB reversal, right? So we're going to open up well outside of those bands on pretty much every time frame, right? And so we're going to have fat bands, well, like kind of crazier price action than average. So can we basically get a reversal back towards the mean, right? Mean reversion setup here this AM. So BB reversal on vol, or first red candle after a green candle, right? And then, or if we don't get that look, right, like an MA cross, and then that's the same idea, right? After the MA cross, you want to see a little bit of separation and then a pullback into the MAs. We can get that narrative, right? Awesome. To the upside, yeah, I think probably a little bit ambitious to think that we're going to get a breakout through 177 here today, but that would be the narrative I would need to see for that to kind of be interested. But I think this Apple looks as close to A+ as we're going to get here this morning, or at least the best name that I've seen here so far. So if I can see this kind of trend line, you know, act as support here now, a little bit of BBs, right? Give me a little bit of that sort of, you know, confluence price action. Then it starts to get really interesting. I like that the volume's kind of decreasing below outlier, right? So it's not showing me the same relative strength that a QQQ is, or an Apple is, or a SPY is. But I think Apple has a lot of potential here for that BB reversal, and this will be pretty much top of the watch list here this morning. Again, right? No downside narrative as long as that VIX is sub 20. Okay. Tesla, right? This one's a little bit interesting. We have a little bit of a top wick here, but that top wick isn't as big as the body of the candle. So I'm happy to still call this like a look. It looks more like a normal body bullish, right, than a least bullish within that context. So I'm going to be looking for a continuation narrative here, right? We have normal body bullish, increasing outlier volume, right? Kind of biggest volume, bigger volume than anything we saw there last week. We have strong momentum in this name, and we're getting a nice gap up. So every piece of information here pre-market's kind of telling me the same story. So this is probably our best bet here for a breakout trade this AM, right? We're going to call this normal body bullish plus increasing outlier vol plus gap up. So 3 for 3 here this morning, right? And I like the look of this, right? So if I'm going to be chasing a breakout, if I'm going to be chasing kind of price action higher, I think Tesla's maybe the easiest narrative there, right? We're hanging out just at 181 here pre-market, but I'm going to need to clear through previous day's highs, which is 182. Awesome. Right, so pretty easy, nice little level for me to break out through. I don't necessarily need to see bigger vol than what I saw on Friday, right? Because we had that evidence of momentum being in play there. But the stronger volume I can get, right, that makes life easier. Now, alternatively, if we see like a weak pullback here this morning and kind of that V-shaped recovery, I can still look for sort of finding or try to find support basically inside this range. Maybe I can get like a bounce right off of this, like, you know, Friday, May 12th high, right? Kind of in that green box, something along those lines. But my bias here, what I'd love to see more than anything is that bullish breakout. So I want to see that increasing volume. I want to see that building momentum. And if I can get that confirmation, then that 182 certainly looks like it could be in play. Now, like we said, right, find support inside the green box or breakout on vol. Right, and then again, 3 for 3 to the upside, so I have no bearish bias here, right? I'm looking for a breakout or bust, and then we just got to start mapping this thing out. So we got 184, and then we kind of have that 190 shelf, right, which is kind of, I mean, those April highs, and then we kind of go like 191, 192, then creeps up towards 200. Now, I don't think it's going to go towards 200, but if I can map out 10 bucks on this thing, then that's plenty of space for me to take advantage of. So 182, we're going to have 10 bucks of room towards 192. Awesome. And let's just make sure we get the risk reward requirements that we're looking for, especially in those first couple moves, see if we can get that really nice follow through. If not, okay, no worries. I'm not going to force it. I'm not going to overtrade, not going to do anything stupid, but I think this has got a lot of potential for me to have a little bit of at least juice, right? So this is up there with Apple on top of the watch list for me this morning. Okay. Microsoft inside bar needs to break out basically through that 319, right? Not too much has changed here. Channel breakout. Inside bar. I don't necessarily like the increasing volume on an inside bar. That tends to me be maybe a little bit of a mixed narrative, right? Inside bar tells me consolidation, and increasing volume tells me strength, right? So when I'm seeing increasing bullish momentum, but I'm seeing an inside bar, it makes me think, okay, if bulls are strong, why weren't they able to make a higher high here, right? That for me is a little bit confusing, or it's not a consistent enough narrative that I'm like, okay, this is awesome, right? So that makes me a little bit skeptical. Now, the saving grace here, right, is that the volume is still less than outlier, so it's not like huge volume, but on a technical level, right, still slowing me down here just a little bit. So I don't like that increasing volume. So if I'm going to play a breakout here, I'm going to need to see bigger vol than what I saw on Friday. So needs bigger vol than anything on Friday. Right, I need to basically invalidate that inconsistent narrative, right, before I'm willing to trade this. Now, this is probably the closest name to a breakout here this morning, right? We're 319, but the standard that I need to apply for this breakout is going to be just a little bit more challenging, I think, than any of the other names that I'm looking at so far. So yeah, this is likely going to be sort of the first thing that alerts for me here this morning, but I'm also not going to be putting myself in a situation where I'm forcing a decision, or I'm over trading this, or I'm rushing into anything. I'm more trying to be a little bit cautious, a little bit patient, and just put myself in a situation where it's easy to be successful on this, right? And so volume standard needs to be perfect. If it isn't, okay, fine, I'll leave it, right? And then we've just got this kind of sanity check mapped out, okay, 325, and then we know that sort of next shelf, 330. So I don't need to change these levels here too much, right? Inside bar hasn't given me any new information anyway. So I just want to make sure that I'm not getting trapped in a setup that's maybe going to be a bit of a fake out, right? Again, inside bar tells me consolidation, increasing volume tells me strength. So if bulls were actually strong, why weren't they able to make a higher high? Right? And so I need to invalidate that sort of inconsistent narrative before I'm willing to be aggressive here. Hey, good morning, JJ. How you doing? Right. AMD, right? Okay. Doji, right? So a kind of weak price action, right? Inside bar, right? So that tells me, again, right? Weak price action. A little bit more of a consistent narrative here on this consolidation. Now, maybe what I don't necessarily like about this AMD is it's these kind of consistent higher highs, right? Or say this Wednesday high and this Thursday high, we're on decreasing volume. So it seems like it maybe wants to kind of catch its breath here a little bit, but could we find that sort of support, right? Again, inside sort of this box, where we've seen basically bull step in and defend before, right? So this would be maybe more of a dip buy opportunity than a breakout opportunity. Although I'm not going to be super aggressive chasing this with Nvidia earnings this week. We'll talk about Nvidia a little bit later on. But the price action that it's implying right now is like an 8% move on the earnings, and the average move on Nvidia earnings is like 4.5%. So the expectation of being profitable trading that probably isn't there, where the premium sellers are probably going to be the ones who are making money, not the people who are chasing that move higher or lower. So I want to be a little bit patient, right, and not forcing any decisions here in the short term. But if I can find similar to that Apple, right, like a low vol pull back into the zone, right? Find some support, right? Well, I've got evidence, right, of basically bull stepping in and defending here before. So can I see that evidence sustain and keep going? But not really going to be at the top of my watch list here this morning. And I'm going to want to see a little bit more information before I'm willing to say that AMD is going to continue behaving like a sociopath like it has over the last little bit, right? This has basically been moving in a straight line here recently, and it's been fun to trade, and we've had a few opportunities, but it seems like it's out of momentum a little bit, right? With that decreasing, that basically volume divergence setup possibly kind of coming together. So I just want to make sure that I'm not anticipating that strength being there when the evidence is kind of telling me otherwise, right? So inside bar plus decreasing vol, what you want to see on an inside bar, right? Plus gap down, right? So we got pretty decent kind of price action here. And then what I want to see, right, is basically a pullback into bullish support. So I would need to see a bigger vol than anything I saw on Friday, right, for me to want to be convinced to play this reversal. So look, my biggest concern, right, is that this is basically telling me it's out of momentum and needs to consolidate until it's ready to make that next leg higher. And so I'm not going to force a decision until I basically get that information. So if it needs to catch its breath, if it needs to slow down, no biggie. You've got a lot of other names here that it seems like price action might want to rotate into. That should be easier to trade than this AM. Okay, Nvidia, right? Pretty much the same story, except we have a stronger volume profile, right? Where we've got way bigger, crazy outlier volume there on Nvidia. So we could almost play like that inside bar fake out here, right? Find support like kind of underneath, we'll call it 310, right? Kind of bounce off of that area. Make sure that we basically stay above 300. This seems like a great spot to find some support going into a breakout. Now for your options traders, I'd imagine that the Nvidia calls or Nvidia option chain today is going to be very expensive, right? Even if I remember on Friday, like next week's or this week's kind of expirations were like already in the 70% range on the implied volatility. So I don't want to get too aggressive here, right? I don't think there's going to be too much of a reason for me to want to be forcing a trade here going into earnings on Wednesday. But again, right, this is giving me a slightly cleaner setup than what I'm seeing on AMD. And I've got reason to believe that we should find support inside this sort of Thursday range. So if I could find support inside that price action, I'll be happy to play this with shares. But for those options traders, just make sure that the basically move isn't getting priced into your option chain, right? So you probably want to see the implied volatility like sub 80, right? Something along those lines, because otherwise you're going to need a really oversized move to get paid on sort of your option breakout. Now we're also not going to be looking for a 319 breakout, right? Realistically, that's $10 away. It's probably not going to be in play. This is more going to be a pullback and go versus a breakout trade here this morning. And again, right, it seems like Apple's going to maybe be the easier version of this same sort of thesis, but we'll judge that opportunity based on what that opening volume looks like here this morning. So again, we'll call this inside bar, right, plus decreasing but outlier vol. And then worth noting, right, this is the least bearish candle. So we know that a lot of this volume, even though increasing, is dip buyers, right, basically supporting that dip. Or, you know, basically more evidence, right, of us finding support inside that range. And then, yeah, what I want to do is find basically a pullback into the green box, basically inside bar fake out, right? So make a lower low, find support, basically overreaction flush after we make that lower low, or, right, find support, or BB reversal, right? So we should be opening up near the lower end of that Bollinger Band. Give me a little fake out, give me a little pullback. Basically see bears fail in their attempt to reclaim control. And then once that happens, there should be an opportunity for me to be able to push this thing higher. Levels wise, okay, yeah, 319, not much is going to change there, but we're $10 from that area here right now. So realistically, probably not going to be chasing a breakout. If it happens, we're going to have easier setups than that. And so I'm not going to be forcing that decision until proven otherwise. And then guys, same narrative, right? Everywhere here today. As long as that VIX is sub 20, I am not interested in being bearish. Okay, Meta looks like it kind of got stuck just under that 250 barrier. 249 to be specific. Higher high, higher low on decreasing volume, right? Least bearish candle. So again, a little bit of a mixed narrative here, right? Where we've got a weak candle, weak volume, and then a gap down. So we're not being told a super convincing story from bears, right? This morning, we're kind of being told a little bit of indecision. What could be interesting to see, right, is basically if this breakout, right, this wedge resistance can now act as support, and that would maybe be the easier narrative for me to fall in love with here today. But again, this doesn't seem like a story that I'm super convinced by. And so this is probably more one to watch versus one to trade, or at least in the short term. I need more information before I'm willing to be hyper aggressive here. We're going to call this, right, least bearish plus decreasing vol plus gap down. So week 2 out of 3. Now, generally week 2 out of 3 is right. We're looking for trend reversals. And so that's still the same narrative here. Want to basically see that wedge breakout turn into support. And if I can get a high vol bounce off of that area, that's definitely the most interesting narrative. Now we're $5 away from that 249, and it continues to defend this gap relatively well, but chasing that 249 towards that 250 mark, probably going to be a little bit aggressive until I kind of get that proven otherwise. So let's just make sure that I'm not forcing a decision, right? I want to make sure that price action is convincing. I want to make sure that I'm getting a nice look. I want to make sure that this is actually a pattern, you know, like the pattern becomes stronger when it defends itself, right? So if I could see that defense here, if I could see that conviction, then that would maybe give me some hope that for maybe Wednesday or Thursday or Tuesday or Friday, I could start to get that gap fill price action. But short term, looking to see if this can act as support. Maybe the same thing, right? Give me a little fake out, find support off of this area, even like that 243. As long as it stays above 240, really, that would be interesting. But I'm not going to be hyper aggressive forcing this until I get that proven otherwise. Okay. Amazon, probably the only name here that's given us a lower low and a lower high. So kind of a bearish engulfing candle, right? We closed underneath the Thursday low, but not on great volume. So strongest looking candle, weakest looking volume, and then gap up. So again, right, not exactly a high conviction narrative. This is sort of screaming out like it wants to sort of catch its breath here a little bit. Maybe we're starting to get the early starts of a bit of a wedge pattern, right? Something like that. So this for me looks like maybe more one to watch versus one to trade. We're only getting one element here of high conviction PA. And then because we've got such strong volume kind of defending this Tuesday, right? Sorry, last week, right? That Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, all pretty strong bars. You know, maybe the narrative is, again, right? Find that kind of support inside this range and then bounce instead of chasing that breakout. But because this is the most indecisive of the looking names, I'm going to put this on the just pure watch list and not trade list here this morning, because I need the most information before I'm willing to be aggressive here. So this is slowing me down here just a little bit. I got no reason to be hyper aggressive on this Amazon. I need more information before I'm willing to kind of force this. And then once I get that info, I'll be happy to take advantage of any price action here this morning. So I'm just going to say one to watch versus trade, and it's because it's telling me different story than every other. So okay, if I can get a 120 breakout on mega vol, we can maybe look at it, but my narrative here is to not be very aggressive. I don't need to force a decision. I've got plenty of other names that are giving me some relative strength, so I'd rather just focus on those and see if I can get those high conviction looks. If I can get those looks, awesome. If not, no worries, right? Mondays have been relatively slow here recently. We've had a lot of inside bars. We've had a lot of consolidation. And we have a big expectation that today's going to be a bit funky with so many Fed presidents speaking. So generally, any day that the Fed talks, we get a little bit wacky price action. So I just want to make sure that I'm not getting trapped in that narrative before I kind of put my money on the line. For those of you who are DTR guests, thank you very much for joining. If you have any questions, please do not hesitate to ask. Use the chat to ask anything, right? If you don't want to watch on YouTube this morning, I'll be also on the Wolf Spaces talking about some of my trading. So if you guys want to just listen in on that via Twitter, you can also access that. But you'll see a little bit more. You'll get a bit more info inside the live stream here. So we'll see how the day shapes up. We're going to see where that momentum steps in. And like I said, if you have any questions, please do not hesitate to use the chat. I'll be happy to answer them as soon as I see your question. But otherwise, let's put ourselves in a strong situation. Let's put ourselves in situations where, we're controlling the variables we can't control. We're not forcing anything. We're not rushing anything. We're not doing anything stupid. And then when that all kind of comes together, we'll have ourselves a lot of fun. But yeah, let's have ourselves a strong day here, guys. Let's absolutely crush the market. And then when price action gives us that A+ look, we'll be ready to take advantage of it. I'm going to go, right now that wolf space is starting, so I'm going to go say hello there, introduce myself, and kind of get that started as well. But I'll do a quick little pre-market rundown before the session starts, and then we'll do hopefully we can have a strong session here today. So if you have any questions, fire them in the chat, and I'll try to answer them as soon as I can. I'm going to go make myself a quick cup of coffee, say hello to Wolf, and then we'll get the day started here. So we'll be back in a few minutes, and we'll do a quick little pre-market rundown before the day starts. All right, so let's do a quick little rundown before the session starts here, right? Generally across the board, looking for a resolution to some of this indecision that we're seeing here, right? So we've got kind of a potential inside bar setup here coming together on the SPY. We're opening up in the middle of the range. Similar idea here on QQQ. So my focus here this morning is going to be to look for sort of those leading names kind of bring the charge higher, right? So Apple's going to be really close to the top of the watch list. Tesla's going to be really close to the watch list. And then everything else looks a little bit murky. So I don't want to force anything here too aggressive until proven otherwise. Last few Mondays have been slow, choppy, kind of inside bar days. And with a lot of Fed speak, my base assumption is that's going to be the case until proven otherwise. So let's see how the day shapes up. Let's basically see where that momentum steps in. And if we can get a little bit of joy here this AM, then I think Apple and Tesla are going to be the names to kind of watch. And then everything else will be a little bit less interesting, especially Nvidia and AMD. Those aren't going to be names I'm going to be hyper focused on. Amazon as well. I'm going to want to see nice little pullbacks before that happens. So let's see if we can get some high conviction looks here this morning. Let's see where that volume steps in, and they can kind of go from there. Good morning, T Crone. How you doing? All right, so let's see how this Apple volume looks right at this open, right? We want to see strength step in, then weak bears fail in their attempt to reclaim control, and then we can look to jump in. So it's going to be a BB reversal setup, right? This is going to be my best possible look. Pretty good volume off this opening bell, but let's make sure that it actually gives me that confirmation. On this Apple, right, we want to make sure that this candle basically is giving us actually some strength. So it doesn't necessarily need to be finishing off as like a full body or whatever candle, but we want to make sure that the bottom wick is bigger than the top wick, or the body is bigger than the top wick. So I don't want to see too much selling pressure, right? I want to have conviction that bulls have reclaimed control here before I'm willing to jump in. If I can't get on the 5, wait for that on the 10. If I can't get on the 10, right, wait for it on the 15. So always happy to pass on the burden of confirmation. We want to make sure that we're not getting kind of trapped into something. So Tesla, right? Good volume here so far. We want to see maybe a little bit more volume than what we're getting, but $1.50 left on this candle. We got plenty of space higher. Realistically, we're probably going to be targeting now like that 184 area, right? So we're just about to hit that 183. We almost hit it there. So want to see that nice little pullback as well. Stop loss would have to be 180-ish, right? So we need a decent pullback for this to be interesting. Slow down here, right? No reason to try to force this. You don't need to chase this higher yet. Wait for it to be A+, and then maybe we can get a nice pullback to take advantage of. If I don't get that perfect look on this 5-min, then I'm going to wait for the 10-min, right? But I want to at least see this 182 hold on some volume. It's getting better, but we're not quite there yet. Still want to be a little bit cautious, right? My base assumption is chop until proven otherwise. So let's get those high conviction candles, high conviction volume bars, right? Get those consistent narratives, and then it'll be easy for me to take advantage of this PA. Yeah, wait for this to give you confirmation first, Jay. No point to chase this yet, right? Wait till you get that nice pullback. Wait till you get that confirmation look, and then you can kind of make that decision. I need a decent pullback here to like that 181 area for this to be justifiable, right? Apple, good open, but we want to now see a pullback here. Basically give me weak bears, and then I can look to jump in. Tesla, we wait, right? Tesla, we wait. One-to-one risk reward here on Apple, right? So we need to see more. Pull back maybe towards like that 174 area. We need to hold here on volume. Not quite ready. Okay, so not getting that pullback here on Apple yet, right? We didn't get that risk reward ratio towards that justifiable level. So we're gonna wait on this 10-minute time frame, right? That could give us an opportunity to kind of reset back up. Stop loss would still be the same location, right? Needs to be low of day. We want to see a pullback. We can be a bit more flexible here now, right? Where we can get a pullback, risking something along those lines. Needs to be a little bit lower, like 174.20-ish, right? Then you're risking 55 cents to make $1.20, right? That's a really interesting thing. Amazon, not really a super tradable name for me here this AM, right? It was giving me a very different story than everything else I was seeing on the index level. So I'm not really interested in chasing an outlier. I'd rather focus on the names that are giving me consistent stories across the board. Still waiting, right, to see those weak bears step in after some of these breakouts. I haven't gotten those narratives here yet, right? Apple kind of just keeps climbing, so I keep just passing on this burden of confirmation to the longer time frame, right? If I can get that, fine. Tesla maybe found a little bit of short-term resistance here on this 5-minute time frame, but we're now making higher highs through that. I'm not super like rushed on there. Again, though, right? Waiting for some of these high conviction looks to sort of sync up. Can't just try to chase this. I need those A+ looks before I'm really interested in. Maybe on this 10-minute on AMD, I could get that BB reversal. Same idea potentially on this Nvidia. But again, those aren't the leading names I'm super focused on. I'd rather focus on an Apple, a Tesla. I think today those are the stronger looks. I want to see those high conviction opportunities before I force any decisions. Potentially, I don't know if I'd super like this fake out here too much. If this thing can close maybe in 7 minutes, a little bit more conviction, then that sets up as an opportunity where I can look for that, like, fake out lower and then get the risk reward for a move higher. But right now, I don't want to see a pullback yet. Tesla could hold above this kind of rejection high. We can get that pullback towards kind of under 183.20 or 183.30. And you're getting that risk reward right towards that high a day. So this looks pretty good, right? Good volume profile, kind of invalidating some of that weakness. Stop loss seems to be like 182.50 area. So we can get a pullback here. This looks really interesting. Classic, no pullback there right away. Okay, I mean, Apple could be interesting here as well. Not quite the risk reward though yet. Nice. So Apple, right, we can get that pullback under 174, get an overreaction flush. Then we get the risk reward ratio towards that 175 barrier. Yeah, this Apple definitely looks interesting, guys, right? But we want to see it pull back, basically fake out under this like 935 low. That's the risk reward zone, right? If I enter here and I'm chasing towards that 175 area, I don't have a positive expectation of making money. And I can put my stop loss here, get stopped out, and my idea is still valid, right? So I need to see the perfect stop loss location before I'm willing to be aggressive. Maybe this will set up on the 10 min here if I can get this thing to basically close as a red candle. Again, though, right? Same thing. I still need to see a decent pullback here before I'm going to be super interested. Okay, so Apple definitely on watch here, right? But we want to see a pullback under this 174.12 area, give or take. Right, profit target 175.30. We're risking 60 cents, right, to make $1.20. That's kind of the math we're looking at here. So I've got everything set up here, right? Stop loss I know needs to be 175.60. I know my profit target needs to be 175.28. If I don't get a pullback into the zone, right, I don't have an expected risk reward ratio that I can actually take advantage of. So slow and steady here until I get that pullback. Yeah, you got to make that decision for yourself, JJ. I'll be trading this with stocks. Generally, I'm looking at my own, like whatever my profit target would be, generally the strike price I would default to, and then I'm picking whichever volume profile is the best around there. Okay, so let's watch Apple here, right? See if we can pull back that next 40 cents, give or take. Once we hit that 174.15 area, I really want to make sure that I'm just seeing that overreaction flush into my zone, right? So the better or the closer I can get towards that 173.60, the bigger expectation I have of being profitable on this trade. So I want to see that decent pullback here. So far, so good. No little fake out on this pullback candle above sort of that 174.70. So in play here, but need to see that now this thing pull back all the way into my risk reward profile. Yeah, it's tempting to short, but I don't think you're going to get paid out on that move too often here, Rusty. Yeah, so I want to see the reaction here, Jason, to 174.15, give or take. And then that's the risk reward zone, right? So anything inside this area, I've got 2-to-1 risk reward towards sort of that Bollinger Band. Everything above, I don't have that risk reward. So I need to make sure I get that thing. No, I don't. I don't really look at the tape, Zach. I'm just watching the reaction here from bulls, right? Basically make sure that I see them step in and defend. I call that, it's like a tennis ball bounce. So once I see a flush, I want to see that basically bounce back pretty quickly and then kind of get defended. If I don't see that reaction, then I kind of have that base assumption that it's going to flush through. All right, so we're getting close, right? 20 cents away. Let's watch this reaction, right? Decent defense there, right? But we want to see an overreaction flush now. Right, see that bounce? That's kind of what I mean by that tennis ball bounce, right? It makes that lower low and then quickly gets eaten back up, right? That tells me that it's kind of being defended by bulls here a little bit. So now I want to see if I can get that overreaction flush, right? Preferably under that 174 where I'm risking like 20 cents, 25 cents towards low of day. Okay, so watching closely here, right? I want to see that overreaction flush, right? And that's going to be my entry trigger. You can always wait for this candle to close, make sure that gives me that decreasing volume profile, and then basically buy that fake out under that candle low. Okay, good decreasing volume profile. So if I can get a little fake out under this low, right, that gets interesting. Give me a pullback here. Okay, so we get the overreaction flush here, right? That's what we're looking for. Looking for an entry under 174, right? That's my kind of where I got my limit price order set. So I want to see a big overreaction flush here, so we can get it. All right, guys, I am in average price 174.96. Good entry, Jason. I just went All right, I just went long Apple here on that BB reversal setup we mentioned. Got that little overreaction flush under 74. Average price 173.96, and I'm going to try to scale some out kind of once I'm up 1R on this play. So stop loss low day, about a 30-cent stop loss, and I'll trim about half of my position once I'm around that 174. Nice, Jason. That looks fantastic, man. Quick scale out. That's perfect. Get to risk free. See if we can get this thing to follow through. Love to see a little bit more here. A little bit faster mover, but so far so good. So far, so good here, right? So far, so good. So we'd like to see a little bit further follow through. Might try to scale some up, maybe like 174.30. That would be my 1R. For 10, or yeah, 10 cents away from that, give or take. And I'll close about 2/5 of my position, give or take, right? So if I can get this thing to pop out here, that's going to be my entry protection mode. Okay, watching here, right? I'm gonna give this just a second at that 173.63. Gonna give this a second. Still in here, guys. Still in here. If I got a close under that, I would have been out. Still in for now. Okay, back to entry price here, right? So see if we can get that further follow through higher. I'm going to look to probably scale out here pretty quickly because I don't like that potential headline risk. That seems a little bit nervy. Get that algo flush and then quick reversal every single time. These days, it seems like the best technique, at least for myself personally with stop losses, is to do when you get like a break and hold under your stop loss on 5-minute time frame, whatever time frame you entered in on. There's so much like fake out potential with that liquidity where you get that like 5-second, 10-second flush under your level, and then it pulls all the way back up to your entry price within 30 seconds later. So you almost have to be like a little bit more patient on wanting to cut your loser. Sounds almost contradictory to what you're supposed to. Feels a little bit stuck here, right? No, that's not one of the names that I trade. Seems like it's a straight line from the start of May. I held my Apple position that too, but we're just hanging on, man. Here, can't seem to get any separation. The longer it takes, right, usually the worse it feels. So I'll probably be cutting this. Like Apple doesn't sustain gap downs very often, so it's hard to want to chase that thing lower. Yeah, for me, my stop is close and hold under like 173.60. So right now I'm going to be okay with like a little fake out, little bounce. That's fine. But if I get a hold on volume through that level, then that's going to be my exit. Still waiting, right? I want to get a little bit more separation here. We're 20 cents away from that profit target if I can get there. It's taken a little bit of time, right? So that's not fantastic. Yeah, a little bit of an algo flush on that. We just can't get any separation here, right? We kind of seem a little bit stuck. Yeah, it sold off on the algo headline, right? So the algo saw that, sold off. Not a ton of liquidity out there, right? So you get a pretty big overreaction. But I mean, we've got 10 cents separation here, right? Not exactly a ton of follow through. Still waiting for that scale out, right? 20 cents, or sorry, 8 cents, 5 cents. See if we can get it. Got my limit order set. I'm going to close 2/5 of my position, 2/5 of my position at 174.30. And then go stop loss my entry price. I'm still in my Apple position here. Okay, so let's watch here, right, 5 cents away. Okay, 3 cents, 2 cents. All right, there we go, guys. I got to fill at 174.31. 2/5 of my position been closed at that area. And now stop loss is going to be my entry price. Yeah, I had to work for this trade, right? I definitely had to work for this. Survived a little bit of headline risk. But now if we can get a bit of follow through, nice little volume on that as well. But yeah, this trade definitely made us work a little bit for 35 cents. So let's see if this thing can go. I'd like to maybe take some off. Yeah, 174.50, that kind of area, if I can get that next fill. But short term, no reason to be too nervous or too cautious here. Just see if we can get that follow through. I just don't like how long it's taken. That's been the only thing that's maybe been a little bit of a concern. Right, it's taken a little bit longer than expected, and it's brought down that sort of midline on the BBs. So high a day, right? Realistically, probably that area you want to be mostly scaled out for, where you're kind of, fake out proof of that point. But I mean, green's green here, so I have no reason to let this trade go red. So let's see if we can get some further follow through, get a little bit lucky. But yeah, I got no reason to be hyper aggressive anymore. Not really too concerning on that inside bar, right? Pretty thin volume, lowest volume bar of the day. I'd like to think this probably still has a bit more further follow through, but it's just a slow mover at this point, right? I'm not sure how much kind of gas is left in the tank. Right, so I want to be a little bit patient. You know, we're outside of that first sort of hour, right? That historically means that the volatility is kind of dried up a little bit on these mega caps. So we'd like to get some follow through to give it maybe further separation, but I'm not going to hold this thing forever. If I have to just take a small win, no big deal. But yeah, I mean, it's a bit of a slow worker here and a relatively choppy market so far. V-shaped recovery, but not a ton of separation. There's been a few psycho moves like Nvidia, pretty impressive. AMD, impressive. Meta, a little bit impressive, but never really got those perfect A+ looks there. So no reason to force anything. But outside of that first hour of the day, I don't have too much of a bias to be very aggressive here. Any questions about that Apple trade, guys? Do you understand the logic here? Why we did it? Why we wait for that pullback? Why we didn't stop ourselves out when it flushed out? Happy to answer all those questions here now. Chat's not moving too fast, so I don't know what you guys are looking at or what you guys are stuck on, but always happy to answer those questions if required. Man, I'm counting down for that. I'm gonna start rewatching all the episodes here pretty soon, so that I can just power through, start to finish, get the full story. Maybe bleed my eyes out for a weekend. You get 10-to-1 leverage, JJ. They just get really good because they've got so much capital with their broker, right? That they get pretty good rates, and so they pass that on to you. Yeah, I've ever made spoiler free, Rusty. Right, so it's kind of like trading on margin, but on a little bit of steroids because they've got 100 million invested with their broker or however much, maybe more. I don't know the specific number. So yeah, they're able to get some pretty preferential rates, and then they can pass that on to the consumer. And as long as you're managing risk and you're staying within their structure, then yeah, you can take advantage of that. You can get up to 20-to-1 leverage, I think. on like FX and stuff like that. Maybe not on stocks, but you can get some pretty awesome leverage. So I just wanted to see basically what the reaction. If it held and closed under that stop loss, awesome, right? I would have stopped myself out, but it just felt like a little bit of a fake out. Just didn't necessarily see that strength, and we were pairing that with a unconfirmed data report. So I just wanted to see if I could get confirmation of that, because it just felt like it was algos pushing that move down. So I was happy to kind of make sure I'm getting a bit more information before I cut my loser. And so yeah, that was that decision. The logic on this trade, right, is a Bollinger Band reversal. So you see really strong opening volume here to start the day off. You're targeting a move kind of back towards sort of that 175 area. And you're just waiting for a good pullback into that sort of risk reward zone that would justify that move. So it was a Bollinger Band reversal here, Donald. And that was sort of the thesis here, right? After a big gap down tends to not sustain, or those gap downs tend to not really continue. So I was looking to see if I could find dip buyers stepping in and supporting my idea. And the opening 5-minute candle, big volume, right? Kind of told me that dip buyers were defending. Don't know if I like these pullbacks too much at this point. Kind of debating closing here. Yeah, that's why I've been trading shares recently, JJ, right? Like I don't have to deal with that time decay, right? Like I can be up 30 cents a share. I can be up whatever at any time, and it's never going to cost me more, never going to cost me less. That's why I've transitioned to trading shares, not options, in this sort of 2023 market. Just for that exact same reason. Just don't get paid for that follow through on most of your names. Sorry, what do you mean by that, Rusty? Like, what's my next target? How much am I up? What are you asking? I mean, I can get you a good deal, JJ. Send me a message. I could talk you through it. All right, guys, I am out. I got stopped out, protecting my entry there. I'm generally always trying to target like a 1R move, right? And then every R, I'm trying to take some more off. So in this case, right, I was risking about 30 cents. So profit target, right, about 30 cents. First profit target, about 30 cents from my initial entry. And then every 30 cents up. So I'm doing it as an element of risk, right? The tighter risk I have, the more kind of conservative I'm being. Does that make sense? The 1R, 2R, whatever. I understand what I'm getting at. So you guys, any questions about this morning's trading action? Looks like we're getting a little bit stuck here now. Right, doji's on the indexes, generally not super decisive. This is kind of what we expected, though, here today. I was expecting maybe a bit more further follow through in Apple, but that's remained relatively choppy, while Tesla has kind of behaved like the sociopath. Maybe we should have focused on this instead, but it is. Then AMD and Nvidia continuing to just be crazies. I'm very impressed with the way these things move. But as we creep up closer and closer towards Nvidia's earnings, right, this becomes a little bit more expensive, right, or a little bit more challenging to want to trade. The IV, okay, in the almost 80 range, right? So not really to, no reason to really to force any decisions here or to be hyper aggressive. Happy to just be relatively cautious and, yeah, not force any trades. Right, when the market's stuck, when the market's indecisive, I'm not being told a reason to be aggressive. I'm being sort of told, yeah, just to be kind of chill. So green is green, not a huge day by any means, right? But we'll take it. These Mondays have been relatively challenging to trade here recently. So many inside bars, so much indecision. And the big money was on Tesla today. But I'm never entering on this candle. Right, that looks like a rejection. On this one, too much volume. Maybe here, I guess you could have something, but I don't think it was perfect. Yeah, sounds good, Jay. I don't think you're going to miss out on too much here rest of this afternoon anyway. You're going to have Bostic and Tom Barkin speaking here pretty soon, so that's going to slow things down a little bit too. And we can get a nice day tomorrow, maybe a nice day Thursday. It seems like Mondays are the most likely doji, most likely inside bar days these days. So no point fighting it, especially when off the opening 90 minutes, you're just about our opening 80 minutes. We've been told indecision, right? So we haven't gotten any indication of trending price action here. So not too much for me to chase here, guys, right? Happy to be green, albeit small. But yeah, no reason to force anything. No reason to rush into something else here. We'll see if something comes up or something's kind of perfect. But right now, I'm happy to sit on hands. No, VIX is sub 20. So I have no expectation of taking a trade. As long as the VIX is sub 20, I'm just going to be wasting my mental capital watching this. So guys, any questions here? I'm likely going to kill the stream pretty soon. This is just Chop City, so I don't have too much interest in trading here. But happy to answer any questions. Happy to see if something else sets up. But I mean, I'm not going to chase it, right? I had a few A+ looks. They didn't give me too much follow through, so I have no reason to force anything else here in the short term. All right, so happy to sit on hands and yeah, I mean, just not waste that mental capital. It is a bank holiday here in Canada too, so go enjoy some of that sunshine. And yeah, I mean, don't need to be stressed out by the market if it isn't giving you what you're looking for, right? Yeah, it's probably the move, huh? I gotta set my AC here at some point too, so that'll be fun. Have yourself a great day, Jason. I'm sure we'll see you tomorrow. Anyone else got any other questions here? Happy to kind of go through them here now. Otherwise, I do have a few one-on-one calls with a few members here this afternoon. Hopefully those are nice and successful. Sounds good. Well, I'm sure you'll pop in and say hello at some point anyway. All right, guys, if no further questions, then I'm going to kill the stream here. Small green day, right? I'll take it. Not the end of the world, but not a ton of follow through. So choppy day on the indexes, right? Tends to lead to a choppy day everywhere else. Hopefully we can get a clean resolution here later on in the week. But for now, on hands here, guys, and will not be forcing any other trades here today. Happy to be green. Not something to be super braggy about, but we'll see if something else sets up, and we're waiting for conditions to kind of be cleaner. And maybe rest of the week we can kind of focus on if Microsoft wants to give us that continuation, if Tesla wants to give us that continuation. maybe those end up being sort of the most tradable names. So short term, not the busiest of sessions, but hopefully we get a busier week. We got a few headlines to get through. So maybe it's just catching its breath, right? Mondays have been very slow days here recently in general anyway. It doesn't seem like we're getting too much of an exception to that rule here today. So I'll be back at it again here, 8:50 tomorrow morning for that next pre-market prep, and we'll get back to crushing it then. Otherwise, if you have any questions, hit me up on Twitter, Discord, whatever. Yeah, no real reason for me to do anything else besides this. So if you guys have any questions, yeah, hit me up and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. Otherwise, looking forward to our one-on-one calls here this afternoon, and I'll speak to you guys all then. Peace.